audience out there. This is I'm Ann Robinson. I'm the co-producer of Be Inquisitive, and I'm with my son.
I'm George Robinson.
And I thought it would be kind of fun today to talk about your background and how your disabilities happened. When did you find out that you had a disability?
Okay, I think I was diagnosed with my eye condition when I was 7.
Yeah. And what is your eye condition?
It's called retinitis pigmentosa.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
what does that mean in terms of your vision?
well, it's you don't have a person doesn't have peripheral vision.
Okay.
It's like looking through a straw.
Okay. Oh, that's a good way to describe it. It's like looking through a straw. So if someone comes up to shake your hand,
I won't see it.
you won't see it, right?
No.
Right. It might be, but also it's an overcoming experience. And now you went all the way through middle school and high school, and you went to an inner city high school.
Yes, I went to Hill House High School.
And you started smiling about that because you were telling us something about when you graduated from Hill House.
Oh yeah, I was saying when I graduated, I graduated 4th in my class.
Right, 4th highest, right?
4th highest.
Yes, out of I think there are about almost 400 students. Congratulations! I'm still a proud mom.
Thank you.
Yes. And from there, where did you go?
I went to University of Massachusetts at Amherst, and I majored in speech and hearing disorders.
And that's a kind of a disability too, right? Where people have a hearing impairment. Yes.
Or speech impairment.
Or speech impairment, yes. And so what was your success there? You were 4th in your class in high school, so how was it in college?
Well, I was able to graduate with honors.
Yo, cum laude, huh?
Yeah.
We're still a proud mom.
Yes.
And you should be very proud of yourself, because I'm sure that there were many things you had to face as a student. And we're going to be talking about that more as we continue with Be Inquisitive. So if someone wants to know, why did we want to do Be Inquisitive and explore disabilities? Because that's been a part of our life story.
Yes.
It's been a part of your life story and my life story, and understanding what it means to go through life and have a handicap.
Yeah.
And so yes, go ahead. So I'm really happy that we're doing this, although I never thought, George, never in my whole life did I think that at this phase I would be doing television shows.
Neither did I. Neither did I.
We've been fortunate. We've been with CTV, and we've been with Babar Tree Studios.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And hopefully we'll be able to share more about disabilities. And I've told you this many times, but I want you to know one thing, George. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
So it's time we can sign off now.
Yes.
And sign off. And today we have someone here with us.
Yes, Tracy Andrews.
Yes, and she is a remarkable person also.
Yes, she is.
And we want to hear about her life story. And so that on behalf of George Robinson and Ann Robinson, we say thank you, George, and we look forward to talking to Tracy.
Okay, thank you.
Hey now. Hi, how are you?
Good to see you.
Listen, we had so much fun before the taping, and now I'm just looking forward to this taping.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'd like everyone out there to know that Be Inquisitive welcomes with a great deal of joy Tracy Andrews. Tracy and I met some time ago at Vision Dynamics where she works, and I was just fascinated with all the things she had to say about what it meant to be visually impaired and her, I couldn't believe it, incredible experiences with Achilles International as a runner. And we enticed her to come and talk to us and tell us her story. And so I'm Ann Robinson with Be Inquisitive. My son George is over on the camera, and we are at Babop Tree Studios. And I think Tracy has a husband out there looking.
He is. He's out here supporting.
And so, Tracy, this is your time. This is your time to tell us your story in any way you like to. We had some questions that we asked, and then we're just going to start with them, and then we'll take off.
Sounds like a
just
plan.
Just like we do in running, right? Tell us about yourself, and please begin by telling us the full name you want to be known by in public. And tell as much as you wish about your early life experiences and school and athletic experience. But Tracy Andrews, an audience out there, wake it up. You're in for the best treat of your life. Tracy, tell us.
Wow, well, that's quite a build-up, and thank you so much for asking me to come and speak. It's a pleasure and a lot of fun for me. So as you mentioned, I'm Tracy Andrews. That's my married name. I was Tracy McConey growing up, the youngest of 3 kids. I grew up in Cheshire. And around the age of 7, I started to lose my vision. And it happened very gradually. I was in school, literally looking at the chalkboard. It was a creative assignment experience, and the teacher had written the title on the board, and we had to write a story to match the title. And the teacher was walking around, and I had written the title down incorrectly, and she noticed it, and when I looked up at the board, I couldn't see it anymore. So literally she just sent, it was that sudden. But it was gradual in the sense that, I muddled through for the rest of the school year. She wrote a note home to my parents saying, I think Tracy might need to go to the eye doctor, maybe get some glasses. And that's when it all began. Years and years of going to the doctors because I didn't quite fit in the right hole, kind of the square peg in the round hole, so to speak. I didn't meet all the criteria for the standard, youth vision issues. So for the most part, they called it macular degeneration and kind of left it at that for a long time. And
now,
so
that was a very big word.
Yeah.
And that was, were your parents prepared to hear?
They were pretty incredible because they learned all they could, but kept my life very normal. Again, I had an older brother and sister that didn't treat me any differently because I had a visual impairment. So, and they were great. I continued on in school. And that was an interesting experience because by the time I was 11, 12, I was deemed legally blind. And the school system, some teachers were terrific. Others were challenged because they were asked to teach a little differently, correct my papers in a different colored pen, and some did not rise to the occasion and enjoy the fact that they needed to do something different. They were challenged by that. So, because again, I was one of the first kids mainstreamed in the public school system in Cheshire, so they were having to do things a little differently.
What do you mean you were one of the first?
Because I think typically kids with disabilities would go to a school that catered to kids with disabilities, or there was the Oak Hill School for the Blind, and so there weren't a lot of kids like me going through public school, and for the most part, it was a great experience, and everybody learned something. It also taught me to kind of speak up and share what my needs were to be successful in class.
And you did that?
Sometimes. Other times I stayed quiet and, didn't work to my potential, and I was a typical kid, and sometimes, leaned on my disability to kind of get out of an assignment. Oh, the print's too small, or, I really couldn't see to take good notes. And so I was a very typical kid. I was not an A student, and I wasn't top of the class like George. So, but I did learn a lot.
Yes.
So when this all came to be and I started losing my vision, there was an ice skating rink being built in our town, and my parents signed me up for skating lessons, and I just can't thank them enough for doing that, because it was such a gift to have the rink to go to after school. School sometimes was challenging. Just, feeling a little out of place and awkward using big magnifiers and, using different books with big print, although, kids were good and teachers were good, it just was awkward. So going to the rink and feeling like everybody else was a great escape. And I was there all through high school. My whole school career, I had the rink, which was terrific. And I had the ability to compete and take tests to different levels. And it really did wonders for my confidence and feeling like I had this really neat talent that none of my other friends had.
Yes.
They would come and see me at the end of the school year at a skating show. And so, my whole life wasn't about being visually impaired. It was about Tracy the ice skater.
Yes.
And that really was terrific. And it, again, like I said, it taught me some confidence and how to work towards a goal. And then it gave me a skill. Yeah, yes.
Kudos to your
Yeah.
parents
Yeah.
who were really visionaries, and although they hadn't had this experience before.
Right. But it would have been easy for them to say, maybe this is too dangerous.
Yes.
But I had enough peripheral vision that I could get around the ice pretty safely. There was a couple of close calls, I'm sure, that I saw and didn't see. But for the most part, I could do it safely. I did get involved in ice
figure
dancing.
eights?
Yes, and the neat thing there is figure eights, years ago, you would create the line with your blade, and then you'd have to trace that again. That was the skill, is to create it and then be balanced enough to create that edge right over the one you had just created. I couldn't see that. So the way I would practice is you had this thing called a scribe. It was a long kind of compass, almost it would look like, a protractor kind of thing, with a nail at the end, and you would create the line with a nail and then trace it, and that's how you'd practice. But I couldn't see the line that nail was making, so my dad rigged up this marker at the end of the scribe. It was a waterproof marker that would create the line, nice big black bold line on the white ice. I could see that and practice tracing. And then the Zamboni would come and make clean ice for freestyle time, and it would erase the black line.
Oh, that's
So
wonderful.
it was great.
Yes,
So I could do figures,
You
the
could do
ice
your figure
figures as
eights,
well.
Yes, yes.
And then I got into ice dancing.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, which was really great because
my
you had your partner
goodness.
steering you around. So I had a lot less near collisions probably doing that.
Yes, yes.
So it was terrific. And then I was able to develop those skills and teach them. As high school students, we had the opportunity to make some money on the weekends teaching classes, and I particularly enjoyed private lessons I could give because, then there's only one student to kind of keep an eye on and work with. And when you're skating, unlike a football coach where the team could be off in the distance working on a play, I can stay with them by skating along with them and watching them, and so I could continue to instruct that way and stay close within my vision to watch them. So it was a great way to earn some extra money. I did it through college. When I was at UConn, I taught as well, and so it was
the same
really,
thing. It followed through UConn, and
Sure. Yeah.
you went to the University of Connecticut.
I did.
And what was your major?
Recreation management. So.
And that involved, that's ice skating and all of those good things.
Right. It was actually a terrific degree because you got to dabble in all the schools up there: business, environment, economics, because you need some skills in everything. I was out of the School of Education, but you had to have some business background. You had to have some education background. You had to have some, I had to take a class on EMT. It wasn't quite to get your EMT certification, but it was on, treatment of injuries and things like that for, when you're out coaching on a field. So it gave me the skills to be able to either work in a YMCA, which is what I ended up doing for years, or in a school system, assisted living facility, park and rec department. You learned, marketing and staffing and
Tracy,
budgeting. It was great.
how did being disabled fit into that? It doesn't sound like everything you said about the University of Connecticut and your education and your curriculum, but none of it seemed to have anything to do at all with a disability.
Well, I think, again, back to my parents, it was not identifying myself as a disabled kid, student, whatever. It was a part of who I was, but it wasn't going to identify who I was.
Did you cane?
Not then. No, that didn't come until I was an adult. That was the one area I should have started using a cane long ago, but was comfortable enough in my skin, but was not quite comfortable yet to have everybody know that I was visually impaired.
It was kind of your private secret.
Yes and no. I mean, it wasn't that I didn't tell people I was visually impaired, because it wasn't hard to figure it out when you saw me as a student and the equipment that I used and whatnot. I guess, I had great friends that were always like grabbing my arm or telling me where the stairs were or whatever. I was never alone too often. UConn isn't out in the city. It's pretty rural out there. So it wasn't like I was navigating the streets of Boston per se, or New Haven here on my own, having to cross a lot of streets. I think if my circumstances were a little different through college, maybe I would have come to that reality sooner. But I think for whatever reason, and I had been an ice skater, I didn't think I needed it, but that was something I had to learn later on in life, and I did. I had a couple of falls as an older person and realized that it was time to use that cane.
It was time to use the cane. One thing we didn't talk about was Braille. Did you ever do Braille?
No, I started to learn Braille in middle school, and I should have continued, but at that point I was in 7th grade. They would teach me after school. I was tired. I didn't have the attention span for it, and it's hard. I applaud people who learn it, and I wish I had, because I think it would just be one more tool. But fortunately, I live in a day and age where so much is auditory and accessible that way. But no, I didn't stick with it like I should have.
George, I'm a mother who has a disabled child, as you know George, and that was one of the things that George didn't do either. He didn't do Braille.
Right.
I'm not sure when George started using a cane either. I'm going to have to ask him about that.
It's a tough one. It's a tough
having
transition.
a cane at the University of Massachusetts. So that you just opened up a conversation that I'm going to have with my son.
Right, and that's a whole nother topic someday to talk about it, because it is a big step.
Yes.
For the people that I work with today, myself being what I thought was a pretty comfortable visually impaired person, somebody who was kind of I call myself a professional disabled person. I've been living this life for a long time and have a lot to share. But that was the one area where I still had some growing to do myself.
Yes. There's one thing that I heard you talking about when I first met you, was this organization called Achilles International. And how and when did you hear about Achilles International? And when you tell about that, would you tell us what it is? And
Sure.
And is it open to people in all age groups? And what do you think is important for disabled people to know about Achilles International?
That's a lot to cover. Okay, hopefully I remember everything.
Yes. We'll take a question at a time.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
So I think because, I loved ice skating. It's an individual sport. I loved having that to do. But after college and started working and got married and had kids, there wasn't a lot of time for, my own exploration of a new sport or anything like that. So what happened was I joined Weight Watchers, started losing some weight, got stuck for a while there. It was time to rev up the activity level. And my cousin, who has been a great supporter and terrific friend and incredible person in my life, Nina, she said, hey, I signed us up for a 5K. We've got about 3 months to get ready for it. You in for it? Okay. So we had been walking on a pretty regular basis, but we started running. Literally just the length of my driveway and walk the rest, then 2 lengths of my driveway and walk the rest. Very slowly we started this running adventure. And eventually caught the bug and ran our first 5K and was just thrilled. I mean, just even running a mile, running to the end of the driveway was a huge accomplishment. 5K is 3.1 miles.
Okay.
And so all along the way, running offers great, milestones, which is terrific. So I had been I work for Vision Dynamics. I was at a conference in Massachusetts, and it was a conference offering products and resources to families and kids. And there were a lot of athletic organizations there, and a lot of people who were visually impaired who do sports. And one of the keynote speakers was a Paralympian who was a runner. And I was just amazed by this woman because she talked, and it felt like she was telling my story. She talked about being active in high school and finally finding something that really kind of made her feel normal in her shoes, so to speak. She started to run. It gave her that outlet to be as good as everybody else, like I felt with skating. And she talked about running, and I had just started running, and I thought, yes, it is terrific. And I started speaking to another woman, and she told me about Achilles. This woman that I was talking to was a runner, and one of the things I realized about a lot of disabled people is they are active in sports, but they tend to be individual sports. Running, ice skating. This woman I was learning about Achilles from had been a horseback rider growing up, but needless to say, as an adult, that's an expensive sport to continue, and she also felt traveling, it was a little tough to bring your horse around. So she loved the idea of just throwing on sneakers wherever she was and being able to get out and run. But what she was telling me about was this organization called Achilles International that supported her wherever she went, because she could call the local chapter, and if she was traveling to Texas, she could find an Achilles guide in Texas that would meet her at the hotel and run with her if she wasn't familiar with the area.
What is a guide? The Achilles, what is a guide?
Right. So Achilles provides disabled athletes who want to run support in access to getting into races if you want to race, or just train, or just start walking if you want to. And they'll provide you with guides. So guides will, if you are a visually impaired person or a wheelchaired athlete, they will either guide you on a bike alongside you, just making sure the area is clear. For me, it's literally somebody who will run alongside me and tell me what's ahead, a pothole, a person we're about to pass on the left, we're going over a wooden bridge. They'll tell me either just verbally what's going on, or in crowded races, my cousin and I will run tethered, where we actually have a string, a rope, a sparkly. We've picked one out. Sure, I have one here.
Sure.
See if I can find it quick, buried in my bag of goodies. But great, here it is. I've got some other stuff. So this is just a lanyard, very simple little lanyard, and she picked this one out. It's nice and sparkly.
I like
But
it.
I'll hold one end, she'll hold the other.
So, like, how does that go now?
Just like this, and we'll run side by side.
Okay.
And she'll kind of pull me to one side or the other if we need to, if she's out of breath and doesn't have the words at the moment. Or it's also a visual to people that we're running around, not to come between us. I will wear a shirt that says Achilles blind athlete. She'll wear a shirt that says Achilles guide. But when you're focused on your race or in your run, you're not always reading what's ahead of you. So it's just another tool to help us stay safe.
And the shirt, do you have a shirt?
I do.
I want to see it.
So this is what you'll see all over the world. Achilles is an international organization. There's 65 chapters all over the world. Thousands and thousands of people have the ability to participate in mainstream sporting events like 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, triathlons. And they're able to do that because Achilles helps. Achilles will help you train. It'll help you introduce. You don't have to have any knowledge at all of running, or they even get involved in kayaking and biking.
Wow.
They will
So wonderful.
get you started, get you paired up with people to support you. They'll help financially because a lot of these races will cost money. Yeah, there's no cost to be a part of Achilles, but if you want to run your local 5K, and a lot of times it'll be 20, because a lot of 5Ks in your neighborhoods are fundraisers for different things. So you want to participate, but maybe you don't have the funds, Achilles will help work with the race organizers to see if they can reduce the price or help you get into that race and pay for you.
Now, you find out, how do you get in touch with them?
So there's AchillesInternational.org, but here in Connecticut, it's AchillesCT.org. And Achilles is ACHILLES, because if you're visually impaired like me, we're usually terrible spellers. So AchillesCT.org will get you in touch with us locally. And then we will, you can sign up as a guide through Achilles Connecticut, or sign up as an athlete, or you can just call. There's all that information on our website, and you can get started. So you can do as much or as little as you want. I have athletes that are they're on oxygen and they walk the entire 5K, which is incredibly inspiring. Yes. I did one with a woman this early spring in Naugatuck, and it was one of those late spring snowstorms. It was slushy, the flakes were huge, and she's soldiering on through that 5K with her oxygen tank. The guide carried it for her, and she just did a tremendous job.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So Achilles gave me the ability to continue to run no matter, because as I mentioned, my cousin, there was a time when she was injured. I had access to other guides, so I could keep running. And they are now our goal, my cousin and myself, our goal is to run the New York Marathon November 1st.
Oh my
goodness.
And
we're doing it in New York because that's the greatest Achilles chapter in the world. That's where it started. And Dick Traum, it started Achilles in 1983. He is the first double amputee to run the New York Marathon in 1987. And he just got this track club going in the early 80s, and it's grown tremendously. I had the opportunity to meet him this spring in Central Park. They do a Hope and Possibility 5-mile race. That's just the most inspiring thing I've ever been a part of.
Now the marathon, how long is that?
26.2 miles.
You are going to do 26 miles?
That's the rumor, right?
Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
No. And tens of thousands of people do it.
Let's go back. Let's go back over this. 26 miles. That means that you are already
right. So I've done 5 half marathons in the past couple of years.
You've done what? 5
half marathons, which are 13.1. And my cousin and I are in an 18-week training program right now. We just did our longest run ever, which was 14 miles last weekend. And the great thing about running right now is it's hugely popular. And so it's fairly inexpensive to do. And there's lots of great training models out there online and through Achilles and your local YMCAs, and it's a very popular thing to do right now. So it's easy to learn, easy to do safely. I'm over 50, and I'm just thrilled to have this adventure ahead of me.
I'm still just so surprised. I'm astonished.
Yeah, I try not to think about it too much, or I'm going to psych myself out. It is a little scary to think.
I will encourage you if you can do 26 miles.
I can.
And your cousin will.
I will somehow.
You will do that.
Yeah.
And you, through Achilles, you've built up to a point where you can accomplish these amazing goals.
Right.
And what does it do for you beyond just being able to be so marvelously successful? And you're a runner. So.
What it does for me, gosh, it has expanded my circle of friends and strengthened my circle of friends. Because I was thinking about this morning, thinking about coming here today. You know, my cousin and I started running, and then a couple other friends started running with us. And so there was a group of 5 of us that were running together, just gradually supporting each other, getting out there. It's a great time to just unwind from the day, talk to each other, and all of us now have run a full half marathon, 13.1 miles. And I always knew I wanted to do it, but I remember when I started running, the other group of friends were like, "You're crazy, I'd never run that far, I don't want to train," and they've all done it on their own. Even my daughter, a couple of summers ago, I was kind of joking one morning, I said, "I'm going to go out for a run." I said, you want to run a half marathon with me?" She said, "Sure." Oh. And I really didn't think she was going to stick with it because it was a good 4-month training program. She did it, and she ran the Hartford half marathon with me a year ago this past fall. So, you know, that was a thrill to run a half marathon with my daughter. So, you know, the friendships. And, you know, I think we've got, my husband and I have friends who have, you know, taken a second look at their bike that's sitting in their garage. They think, gosh, if Tracy can get out there and run, I can ride my bike, you know. So that's been great to watch us kind of in the middle part of our lives to start picking up. So you bike ride
also?
I had the opportunity through Achilles to do a duathlon, which is to run, bike, run. So we ran a 5K, 3.1 miles. Then we biked 16 miles, and I was on a tandem bike. So I was in the back, the pilot was in the front, and we rode the bike together, 16 miles, and then you get
16 miles.
16 miles, and then we got off.
I'll repeat that again.
And then we got off and we ran another 5K. That was the really tough part, is to get off and run again. But I never would have dreamt to try anything like this if I hadn't gotten involved with Achilles. They make these things possible. You meet other people that, it's because of other Achilles people that I've even entertained the idea of being able to do a marathon, because they've convinced me I can do it. I can't imagine it quite yet. I can see the finish line.
Yes, yes.
There's this gap in between that scares me a little bit, but you know, they'll get me through it, and being patient and trusting my training and my cousin's motivation and me motivating her, we'll get it done.
Have you won any medals?
Yes. So you're never too old to have a medal put around your neck. It's such a thrill.
Yes.
So I did bring some. This is a very nice one from the Cheshire Half Marathon. Cheshire has a great half marathon program going on. This will be, I think, their 5th this coming year that they've done. This one was a really fun one that some girlfriends and I did in Rhode Island. It was the Diva Half Marathon.
Oh, that is
so it's all about the bling, medal. You know, the jewels.
What does it say? It says Diva.
Yeah. Half marathon. Right. So this is a fun one because you get a crown when you're done.
Oh, I see.
And a little boa.
Crown. That's beautiful.
I'm telling you, the running craze is a ton of fun.
I never thought of it also as adding to the jewelry collection.
Oh yeah, Hartford always does a beautiful. This is the gate going into the park in Hartford there.
Oh no, and that's a lovely one.
The last one is particularly meaningful, and I can't find it. Did I leave it out?
Probably.
Oh, here it is. No, it's on the floor.
Okay.
Great. This is a medal that I got, and I have 2 of these now because I've done it twice. Hope and Possibility. I think I mentioned it earlier.
Yes.
Is a 5-mile race in Central Park. It is the signature race for Achilles International, and people come from all over the world to participate. And you're running side by side with fellow disabled athletes, and there's able-bodied athletes as well. The New York Road Runners are a big part of that, and they'll be running along with me and my guide, and they'll say, "Wow, you're incredible! Keep it going," giving us all kinds of praise. And then I'm running by, you know, a soldier who's lost a leg running with a prosthetic, and I'm just in awe of what he's doing.
Yes.
And we're all just and that's the one that
inspiring and giving support to each other.
Right.
How wonderful.
So you really can't go to that race and leave it and not feel like you can probably do anything if you put your mind to it when you see what's going on that day. So
I'm going to bring up something that's pretty sad, just a tiny bit sad, and it's not on the question list, but as you talk about the marathons, I was thinking about the Boston Marathon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that must have been quite discouraging. How did you? What? Speak to me a little bit about the Boston Marathon. Did you hear about it, and does that serve as a deterrent to anyone for not participating? Or?
I can't speak for everybody. I know for me, it wasn't. It unfortunately, in this day and age, you really can't be feeling particularly safe anywhere. So what happened in Boston can happen anywhere. You know, it because it happened in an event that, you know, I worked in Boston and lived there for a few
That's one
years.
of the reasons I felt comfortable bringing it up with you.
So it was sad to see that happening to a city that both my husband and I love so much. We both live there.
Did you say that's where you met?
No, we met here in Connecticut.
Okay.
But after college, I moved up there to work for a while, and he moved up as well because he knew I was up there. Because I moved up there, and I thought, gosh, it's such an incredible city for visually impaired people. The transportation and everything. I was like, I don't think I can ever go home. If we're going to stay together, you got to come up here. So he did. He came up and lived and worked, and then when it came time to get married, we decided to come back home where our families were. But so it was devastating. And Achilles was there to help people who were disabled from that event, to get them moving again and support them and get them whatever equipment they need to continue to be athletes. So that was great for Achilles. And, you know, I don't know if I mentioned when I was showing you this shirt that, you know, my hero, Meb Kaflezi, who's an incredible professional runner, he won the Boston Marathon the following year. He was the first American to do that in a long, long time.
He won the... Give us the name again, because we want to make sure that we say a strong rah-rah for him.
It's Meb Kaflezi. Meb, M-E-B.
M-E-B.
Right. And he just came out with a book.
His last name is
Kaflezi. Don't ask me this.
I'm not
The signature is right here if you can read it. But
Kaflezi.
He's phenomenal. He won the New York Marathon, and then he was a silver medalist in the Olympics, and then he came as an American and won the Boston Marathon the very next year, which couldn't have been more symbolic. And he was proud to do that for America. And so I had the opportunity to meet him this spring here in New Haven, and he signed my shirt.
Oh, he came to New Haven?
He did. He came after he ran in the New York Marathon. He came up and spoke a bit. And I hope, depending on the weather, if it's cool enough, I'm going to wear this shirt with his autograph on it for the New York Marathon.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So, it was devastating. But like anything, it solidifies your perseverance to just make sure they don't keep you from.
And look what Meb did. Is that what his name?
Meb.
Yep. Look what Meb did. He just went the next year and won it. And won it for America.
Right. Oh, it was
thrilling. Thank you, Meb, wherever you are. Okay, and so now we were thinking about what are some of your biggest achievements as a leader in the Achilles International? Well,
you know, I had the opportunity. Connecticut has had an Achilles organization in it for a very long time. We have some terrific guides and some folks who have been well known by the New York chapter for a long time. But we weren't a real organized, solid group. And about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, it congealed again well. I was looking for, after I met this woman in Massachusetts that told me about the Achilles International, I tried to find out what was going on in my state of Connecticut. And it was kind of loosely organized at the moment. And so, to make a long story short, I met 2 women that had done some rehab at Gaylord Hospital that had become disabled. And they had been involved with the New York chapter of Achilles, and were ready to get things rolling here in Connecticut so that we had more resources here in Connecticut. So I've had the opportunity to work with them, and one of them, Erin Spalding, has become president of the Connecticut chapter, and she's done an incredible job getting us from basically 0 to 60 in no time. to have a presence of, over 30 athletes in Hartford this past fall. We had close to that in Cheshire this past spring at the half marathon. Putting all our guides and athletes together and have such a presence at these events already is terrific. And so, I've been able to support them. I've been a region leader for them in the Cheshire, kind of upper northern New Haven area, county, helping them. But, I've just brought a mouth. I'm a great ambassador.
Yes, you
for
are.
Achilles.
Yes.
So that's my biggest
look at you now.
benefit.
I mean,
right.
look at what's going on now.
Yeah.
You were the one who told us about it. Told George and I. And by the way, we get the telephone number of Achilles from the computer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The most important thing is AchillesCT.org.
AchillesDC.org.
Achilles CT for Connecticut.
Connecticut.org.
AchillesCT.org.
And they're going to be opening up some spaces at Southern Connecticut.
Yes. Yeah. So
So you have a chapter over there.
Yes. Yep. And when the students get back in the next couple of weeks, there'll be some organized workouts going on down there. In Southern.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That is so great to know. We are closing out something, and today it's been such a wonderful and an enriching experience for me. I've heard about your proud moments, happiest times, and so on. I've heard about how Achilles has helped you reach your goals and overcome some of the barriers. Is there anything you want to tell us that we did not discuss already?
Gosh, we've covered a lot.
Yes, we had a good time. I mean, it's been a great session.
I think the most important thing when I speak about disabilities, it's that one of the things when I tell people I'm legally blind, this sense of, oh, you poor thing, or oh, I'm so sorry. You don't need to apologize, because it's not who I am. It's a part of who I am. It's a part of what makes up Tracy Andrews, and it's not a bad thing. It's just the cards that I was dealt, and everybody is dealing with something. And I try to remind people of that people think they couldn't handle it if it was them having a vision problem, and they really could. People are so much stronger than they think they are. People are dealing with diversity all the time. Someone might be overwhelmed with shyness and missing out on opportunities because they can't speak out loud. They're overwhelmed with the loss of a child. They're overwhelmed with divorce or loss of a job, or just not being able to find opportunities. There's all kinds of disabilities out there. Your son George and I, for a lot of people, it's easy to figure out what our challenges are. If you're in a wheelchair, or if you've got you're dealing with cancer. Sometimes it's easy to pick out what people's disabilities are. But people are much stronger than they think, and I just want people to remember that I'm not that unique. There are wonderful stories out there about people with disabilities doing incredible things, and they get a lot of coverage. But there's a lot of people doing incredible things that have other types of disabilities that are hidden, that are just as inspiring, that are happening right around you all the time. So. It's really okay. I work at a store called Vision Dynamics, and I work with visually impaired people every day, and they come in with a tremendous amount of fear often when they first meet me, because they're losing their vision. They've often got age-related macular degeneration, and they're scared. They're depressed. They're grieving the loss of their vision, and there's tremendous hope out there because they just need to tap into their own strength. What did they, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe there was something devastating that happened. They survived, they got through it, and there's probably something from their own history they can draw from to get through it, and they will. And if we all just had that strength for each other more readily accessible, I think we'd be in better shape. Instead of fearing what could go wrong, a lot of us already have something wrong, and we're doing all right, so it's not that big of a deal.
Well, Tracy Andrews, you are a remarkable woman. You are a phenomenal
Can I just call you
woman.
every day?
Tracy Andrews, you are fantastic, and you're going to run 26 miles. I can't get home.
I know.
It's really been my pleasure meeting you.
Let's talk on November 2nd, the day after the
Okay,
marathon.
the day after. Okay, fantastic. And so, please, we're going to have you come back and share more with Be Inquisitive. But it's been my pleasure, our pleasure.
Mine too.
For our audience out there, aren't you glad we had a chance to meet Tracy? I know you are. Thank you so very
Thank you.
much.
It was great.
Thank
It was
you,
great.
thank you, thank you. Signing off now for Being Inquisitive just a little bit, because we're going to have Tracy come back and we're going to be running too.
We'll get you running. There we go. There we go.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, and so long. This is the end of our show, and it's been a really great day. Thank you very much.